right there. Ah.
Turn it down. Turn it down.
Ah. Ah. Let's try that. Ah. It's the universal mantra. It's when you finally, that when you got that piece of stringy celery stuck between a couple of
Yeah.
and everything's fine, beautiful sunset, and standing hand in hand with the one you love at the edge of the Grand Canyon. You just had the perfect meal, but you've got a piece of stringy celery. And then everything is fine. Life has become open and fine and wonderful and boundless and problem-free till the next thing. Right? But when we get rid of the piece of stringy celery, or when we solve the crossword puzzle, or when we finish our taxes, or when we have the orgasm, or when we have the ice cream. So I've been told. I have this friend, he had an orgasm once. I didn't like it, but
We've been talking about it.
spontaneously, there's a tendency to say, ah. But these things also work both ways. This is a principle of mantra, a principle of these psychoacoustically optimized sounds, right? Psychoacoustically optimized sounds, sounds that have been, people have worked with them and found out that they are, they really have very powerful, very precise connection to states of consciousness. And the state of consciousness that's about fulfillment, satisfaction, happiness, infinite okayness, tends to be, when we tap into that to a small degree or to a big degree, we have a natural tendency, just spontaneously, to say, ah. But, as I've started to say, the other principle of mantra is that it works both ways. So we can also invoke some of that by saying ah. When you feel satisfaction, you say ah. When you say ah, you tend to feel satisfaction. So let's take a deep breath. Ah. Breath. Sometimes that's all you need. You're sitting at the red light, grinding your teeth because it's not turning green fast enough for you. Or you're watching the news, grinding your teeth because, oh my God. Right? And you can keep beating your head against that, or you can, here's one thing you can do. Now, I want to work with another slightly more complicated mantra. The thing about workshops is that anyone can have a workshop and just announce one start time. But apparently, because we're in such abundance here at CSL, 2 different start times have been announced for this one. So there may be some people showing up at 1. So we're going to do a little something here till 5 of, then take a break and go, like nothing's happened, so in case, I'm not sure if more people will join us at 1 or not, okay, but if they do, don't tell them they missed something.
And then will you repeat yourself? And then will you repeat yourself?
Then no, that's the whole thing, then, so, because we've got so much stuff. When I finished writing this book, when I first got the first carton of books, this one's fat. This is the fattest book I've written. There's so much stuff in here. So, we won't even play with all of the methods and perspectives in here today, but we will with several of them. So there's no need to repeat ourselves.
Okay.
So there's a chapter in here. I'm going to read the beginning of the chapter and then we'll go into the practice. The chapter is called The Fire Hose. Sometimes we feel like we need to take a shower on the inside. It may be a passing thing for a day, a moment, or it may be some ongoing life situation. But something needs to be cleaned out. We might feel as if whatever's at the base of our fear, or anger, or addiction has such a stubborn presence within us that it really is stuff, an internal substance, a thick, gooey, sticky sludge, and we need some kind of powerful fire hose to flush it out. The Tibetans have a particularly wide array of specialized meditative tools, including a fire hose, which they call the Vajrasattva practice. The name Vajrasattva can be translated as thunderbolt being, and the practice does clean folks out with the brilliant luminosity and awesome power of a thunderbolt. Traditionally, it's used for clearing out the so-called karmic residues of past wrongdoing, as well as the deep roots of physical illness, negative feelings, personal demons, or anything else that might be gumming up our consciousness. What Buddhists call emotional defilements and obscurations to enlightenment. Most of the men that I work with in prisons love this practice. They understand the need for it. One winter, after I'd been working with my group at Northern State Prison, which is in Newark, New Jersey. If you've anyone here ever flown in or out of Newark Airport? It's less than half a mile from the airport. Kind of especially cruel, so the prisoners can watch people flying all over the world. And there's an interstate right there, and there's a railroad track right behind them, so it's all kinds of, in case you do manage to get over the wall, you have a choice of means of transportation.
I see.
You know, that airport is kind of like a prison though, too. It's very confusing.
Yeah, well, one winter, yeah, after I'd been working with my group at Northern State Prison for a year or two, we decided to tackle the most elaborate version of Vajrasattva practice, which requires learning a 100-syllable mantra in Tibetan. One of the most inspiring teaching experiences I've ever had was sitting in the cold cinder block chapel with my guys, some of whom had never completed grade school and who could barely read English, all working diligently to memorize the mantra as I recited each word and they recited it back, gradually stringing it all together, syllable by syllable, line by line. But let's start with a more accessible, entry-level version. Sit comfortably, and we're doing this now. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and consider what defilement or obscuration you want to work with. Obscurations are any emotions that block your clear view of the infinite okayness of existence, including fear, anger, anxiety, or any other emotion that makes life seem not okay. Defilements are anything with which we feel we've polluted ourselves, broken promises, actions that have caused suffering to ourselves or others, sins, to use a highly loaded word, and self-destructive habits, including addictions. If you feel there's a demon, whatever that might mean to you, at the root of your addiction or of any problem, then that's an emotional reality for you, and you can approach it in those terms. In a given session, you can focus on purifying one specific thing, or all of them in a general way. So everyone got what you want to purify this time? Okay. Just grab something. You can do something else next time. Next, consider what role you may have played in creating the obscuration or defilement, or inviting the demon, and commit yourself to stopping doing it. This is crucial. The traditional teaching is that if you truly, sincerely make that commitment, there's nothing that can't be purified. Next, consider the fact that innumerable others have suffered from the same thing as you, even though their circumstances may have been quite different. Deeply consider this. How many men have abused their wives or partners? How many people have felt enslaved by a drug? How many have realized the horror of having done terrible damage to another that can never be undone? Whatever it is, know that you're not alone in this. And then entertain the wish that through the practice we're about to undertake, not only you, but all other beings might be purified and liberated. Now, I'm going to we're going to add to this practice, and we're going to use the short six-syllable version of the Vajrasattva mantra. And it's Om. I'm going to invite you to say this after me. Om.
Om.
And you know what? I'll give you the spelling of this later. Don't try to write this down. Om. Vajra. Sattva. Hum. Om. Vajra. Sattva. Hum. Om Vajra Sattva Hum. Om Vajra Sattva Hum. Om Vajra Sattva Hum. So the last syllable, it's not it's hum. It's more of an NG sound. It's a very soft NG sound. It's almost more like in French, where you say bon, that nasalization, bon, goes up in. If you can't hear the difference, just think NG is close enough. So Om Vajra Sattva Hum. Om Vajra Sattva Hum. So again, we close our eyes. And what we'll be doing is, in a few moments, we're going to be, as we chant that mantra over and over, we'll be visualizing right above your head this pure, brilliant source of light. And as you chant the mantra, this pure white light, like brilliant, fresh snow and brilliant sunlight, starts dripping down in the form of liquid, brilliant light, seeping down through the top of your head and going through your body and pervading all of your tissues and washing out the crap, washing out the sludge, the toxins, the vermin, whatever. You visualize the thing you want to be purified of. So if there's a particular illness or past, something you did that you feel bad about, or some addiction, or anything, whatever you want washed out of you, you just visualize it as, what does it feel like? Oh, this feels like greasy, smelly, hot smoke, or this feels like muddy sludge, or it feels like creepy, crawly vermin or something. And just as we chant the mantra, that white light, that's like the mantra drives the white light, just percolating down through your system, pushing all that crap out like a liquid garbage compactor, and pushing it out through your bottom and out through the soles of your feet, all the way down to the center of the earth where it's harmlessly neutralized. Okay? Okay? And the whole process being driven by the mantra. And we'll start saying the mantra together, but then go off at your own speed. Don't try to say it all together. It's actually more cool. You'll see if there's more power, everyone's going at their own rate. Okay? So we close our eyes. Visualizing that brilliant white light above your head, and the sludge or crap or vermin in your body. And then we start the purification process, driving it with the mantra. Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Sattva Hum Om Vajra 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 Hum Om Vajra Sattva 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 Om Vajra Sattva Hum 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 Om Vajra Sattva Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Om Vajra Sattva Hum 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 Om Sattva Hum Om Vajra 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 Sattva Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Hum Om Vajra Sattva 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 Om Vajra Sattva Hum 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 Om Vajra Sattva Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Sattva Hum Om Vajra 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 Sattva Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Hum Om Vajra Sattva Om Vajra Sattva And now just feel yourself as completely cleaned out of whatever we just flushed out with that fire hose. Like you're made out of crystal. Completely pure, transparent. And just resting in that simple purity. Enjoying it. Take a minute or two to slowly open the eyes. Okay, how's everyone doing? Good. Good. Any questions about that? Yes.
So if we did that a long time, so do we keep
Oh, that's not a long
doing that?
time. Where you go on the retreats with the Tibetan lamas, you'll do that for hours.
No, I mean, do you keep shoving it out each time going through your feet and do it again and again?
You know, however you feel it. It might feel like, or it might feel like, you know, it's just however you feel it.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong with that. Yes?
My question is about the speed, because you did it very quickly, and whenever I've heard Tibetan monks, they're very fast.
Yeah.
And so is there a reason for that? Can you tell us about what reason it is?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, again, I mentioned that this word I love to use about the mantra is psychoacoustically optimized sound, and the Tibetans are very deep into the science of that. And there's many different styles of chanting for different mantras depending on what you're doing. In this case, because this is a fire hose, this is a pile driver, you do it with great speed and power. And on these retreats, Yafa and I have been on these retreats with Tibetan lamas where you may for hours be doing the 100-syllable version of it, which is actually, give you a sample of what this sounds like. Om Vajrasava Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasava Tenopa Jashadrido Me Baba Sutokayo Me Baba Supokayo Me Baba Anurakto Me Baba Sarvasiddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Tsutsa Me Sitam Shiyam Kuru Hum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajramame Muncha Vaji Bhava Mahasamaya Sadwa Ah. Yeah. There's power in that, isn't there? Yeah. And so and the story that I read at the beginning about sitting with the prisoners and these guys who can't read or write, learning to do that and just being so happy to learn that. One of the just best teaching experiences, or any kind of experiences of my life. So, yeah, some stuff is done very fast and powerful like that. Some stuff is done where you'll be holding a syllable for, you know, what feels like hours. And some of these guys have incredible breath control, and you can't believe what some of them do. There are styles of chanting in Tibetan, certain schools of Tibetan practice, where they do what they call multiphonic chanting.
Yes.
Is that what,
Yes.
yeah, where you, essentially one voice is singing a chord.
Yes.
Like you're singing the C and the E above that and the G above that all at once. Yeah, it's quite amazing. And actually it's because all humans have some of those, we have those overtones every time we speak. When you sing, there's a little bit of the third and the fifth above that. And they've learned to like bring out the subtleties, which corresponds to the idea is that just as those overtones are actually there but below the threshold of our hearing, the infinite, the beingness is here in every moment of experience but just below the threshold of our cognition. So that's like the point of that. It's not just a parlor trick. Right?
Do you know what the name of those, I've heard a group of Tibetan monks in San Diego years ago that.
Do the multiphonic
Yes,
chant.
yeah,
Yeah, those
they
are the
changed-
Gyuto monks.
Okay.
G-Y-U-T-O.
Yes.
The Gyuto. And if you look that up, if you just go online, Gyuto monks, G-Y-U-T-O, you'll find that multiphonic chanting. It's fantastic. G-Y-U-T-O, the Gyuto monks. Sir?
Is it also very similar to the Tibetan bowls as far as those frequencies?
You know what? The business of hitting Tibetan bowls and doing all this, it's really lovely, and it's not really in Tibetan tradition.
It's not.
No, it's a thing that guys use when they're selling Tibetan bowls in their shops and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, and it's, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it, but it's actually not traditional. Yeah. So I want to welcome, so a few people have just come in, and you're fine. There were 2 different start times announced for this workshop, 12:30 and 1. So those of you who just joined us, fine, it wasn't your mistake. So we just did a little introductory something, and you're fine. So welcome. Okay. So hi, I'm Dean, and this is the Fearless Workshop. By the way, I wish I wasn't stuck with this word workshop, because I hate work. And I don't go in, and I never go into a shop, because anytime I go into a shop, I know I'm going to hurt myself. The whole point of the approach, what I've been so fortunate to learn from my teachers, and what I share, is that the core of the practice is non-work, is non-practice. It's, some of you are familiar, I think I was talking about this morning, some of you are familiar with this picture on the cover of this book of mine, Natural Meditation, that it shows a feather falling out of the sky. It doesn't show a guy schlepping a boulder up a mountain. Schlepp is another Tibetan word. It doesn't show that. That's not the, and that's what people often think of meditation or spiritual practice in general is, okay, we do all this work, and it's, it's not necessarily pleasant, but it's like, bitter medicine. This must be good for me because it's such a pain to do. And that's why you hear from people, no, I didn't get around to meditating, right? So what my teachers showed me was, no, the most effective stuff, the most effective way is to do it not like pushing a boulder up a mountain, but like a feather falling out of the sky. There's no work involved. No one has to drive the feather to the ground. Gravity does it all. Gravity is bigger than all of us. Gravity is, the universe runs with gravity. And we're all gravitating all the time in every moment toward spirit, God, Tao, happiness, fulfillment, peace. Right? We're all, it's like those heat-seeking missiles. We are fulfillment-seeking, God-seeking organisms. Right? We can't help it. That's the way we're built. That's what we're looking for in every moment. Not just what we call spiritual stuff, not just what you do in this building, but what you do in every building, everywhere you go. And so it's so much more effective to let this power that runs the universe, let this gravity do the work rather than us doing the work. So that's why this should not be called a workshop. This should be called a playground. Playground, right? It's just a ground.
Love tuning.
Love tuning. Yeah, that all works, right? It's all, because gravity is love. Gravity, that's another word for the same thing. And just, if we allow ourselves to get tuned to it, let go, let it take over. That's what all this stuff is about in different forms. And this, the stuff that I tick off in the subtitle of the new book, Living Beyond Fear, Anxiety, Anger, and Addiction. Those are just the symptoms of the love tuning or the letting go into to the gravity having not been completed yet. So we're just here to allow that to happen and maybe to facilitate it happening a little faster. Okay, because suffering sucks, and because we're tired of, to whatever degree it's there, and all the great teachers said it's not necessary. The whole teaching of the Buddha is, a lot of people, they hear about the Buddha, Buddhism, the Buddha is so gloomy, it's all about suffering. Well, that's because all they heard was the first noble truth, which is that suffering happens. Human life is subject to a lot of suffering. Well, duh, every grown-up knows that. We've all encountered that, right? You know, our parents, before we're grown-ups, our parents do their best to shelter us from that. But, you know, sooner or later, it's almost the definition of being a grown-up, recognizing that stuff happens, you know? But then the second noble truth, guess what? Suffering is not caused by the external situation. It's not caused by what's going on in the environment, in the universe. It's a good thing, because if it were, then, you know, we'd be sunk, because the universe is so much bigger than us. But that the second noble truth teaches that suffering, it comes from our unskillful handling of the stuff that's thrown at us. That we handle it by getting caught up in it. We handle it by, we tighten up around it. We try to grasp at what we think will be the solutions. We try to push away the things that we mistakenly think are the threats. We get caught up. If there were a way to deal with it where we don't get caught up, then that would bring us to the third noble, and there is. Good news, that's the third noble truth, the real good news. The good news, the gospel, right? The gospel, the good news. The Godspell is that it's the good news of the noble truth of the end of suffering, cessation of suffering, which is, since we've been causing the suffering, just stop doing that. It's like the old Horsefell joke. Doctor, I just want to do like this. Don't do like that. And in a sense, what we're doing with all these meditative methods is learning how to don't do like that. Is noticing what we're doing and then stopping and letting go. So in principle, all we should need is three noble truths. Right? Suffering happens. Oh, but the source of suffering is not on the outside, it's on the inside, and therefore stop doing that. That's the end of suffering. So we're done. We're no longer caught in suffering. We're open to the boundlessness of being, boundless okayness. Dusted and done. And many of you may have experienced that. You have times where you think, oh, that's it. I'm there. I'm awake. I'm never going to suffer again. I've walked into the light. I've walked into the spirit. And stick a fork in me, I'm done. Right? And then one of my teachers said, we could write a book called "And Then." Right? Then you wake up the next morning and I'm back in the thick of it again. Right? And so the Buddha came around with the fourth noble truth, which is the truth of the path.
The truth of
the path.
P-A-T-H.
P-A-T-H. Yeah, the truth of the path. The truth of the path, which is, okay, keep doing your meditation. Keep doing right meditation. And also live your life in a way that you're not going to be piling up suffering faster than you can get rid of it. So there's not only right meditation, but also right speech, right action, right thought, right livelihood, all of those things. However many departments of life we can think of that you participate in them, do them right. And there's long books describing what is right livelihood, what is right action, is it okay to eat meat, is it, all that. But, bottom line, in any given moment, you pretty much know, don't you? Mm-hmm. In any given interaction with another human being, there's a way to do it that is going to increase confusion and suffering for yourself and the others, and there's a way to do it that's going to decrease suffering and confusion for yourself and others. And it just makes sense to choose the latter. Sometimes we feel compelled, even though we know better. We do that thing. Even though if I make this wisecrack, right? If I make this wise-ass remark, it's gonna be trouble, but oh, it's so delicious, and then you say it, and guess what? You don't get away with anything. You don't get away with anything. So, you live and learn. But it's all synergistic. So you're doing your meditation, hopefully every day, getting more clarity, feeling more of that kingdom of heaven, nirvana within, feeling your fulfillment coming from within, and therefore becoming less and less dependent on the cheap thrill of the wisecrack to make you feel happy, or the whatever, the substance, the alcohol, the drug, the whatever it is. More and more our fulfillment comes from the inside. It's always come from the inside. But we more and more clearly recognize it. We're less and less caught up in the illusion that the happiness is in the water. It seems like that, right? Drinking that water makes me feel so happy, so fulfilled. This water must be full of happiness. But if we put it in the lab, we take the water molecules apart, we find, a couple of H's and an O, right? We find hydrogen, we find oxygen, we don't find any water there. And yet, it is undeniable that, there it is again. I keep feeling every time I do that. So, until I drink too much of it. And then I go, God, water used to make me happy. Now I guess I'll have to try scotch. Something. So, and that's the way it goes, right? We go, right? Remember Christmas, Mommy, please buy me the Barbie. Or the G.I. Joe for Darren, whatever. And and we knew, it was so clear to us, if only I can have the Barbie or the G.I. Joe, I'll be so happy, my head will explode. I'll be incapable of ever having another desire. Right? You remember what that was like? And then this being America, you probably, rather than, some, poor nation, you probably got the G.I. Joe or the Barbie, and it probably really seemed like, oh yeah, that's it. For, 15 minutes? And then remember that, somewhere around 3-4 in the afternoon on December 25th, when the depression starts to kick in. When you've gone through the big thrill of opening the presents, and then the hangover starts to kick in. You know what I'm talking about, right? Whatever form that took for you. So now it's the next thing. Okay. I know the problem is Barbie's lonely. She needs Ken. Barbie's homeless. She needs the Barbie dream house. She needs the Barbie convertible, right? And we're still playing that game. Just the toys have become more expensive. So, but the thing is, what actually happens at the moment that I swallow the water? I said, water, I want water, I love water, water's great, water makes me feel happy and fulfilled. At the moment that I swallow the water, I've stopped desiring water. Because the desire has been fulfilled, I'm no longer caught up in the desire, and I settle back into myself. Since all there is here is hydrogen and oxygen, there's no happiness in the water, there's only one other place where it can be. Not in the experience, in the experiencer. And that's what all the awakened masters have taught. That in a way, this is what it means to say the kingdom of heaven is within you. That happiness that you keep looking for out here is here. Not only the kingdom of heaven is within you, I would tweak it and say the kingdom of heaven is you. That is your core nature. And all these things that we thought were the sources of our happiness were just things to trigger some letting go and sinking back into ourselves. Golf, I love golf. Golf makes me happy. Golf makes me fulfilled. You sink the putt, and at the moment you sink the putt, at that moment you're no longer playing golf. Golf has fulfilled itself. You've sunk back into yourself. Now, there's nothing wrong with all those external things, except that they're highly unreliable. Right? They're always, what happens when your golf, you play a terrible game of golf, and you break your clubs over your knee and throw them in the lake, and, or what happens if, when you're like the guys I work with in prison, who are deprived of essentially all those outer sources of happiness. It's one of the reasons I love working with them. They're great practitioners because they can't delude themselves with the fantasy that the outside world is going to solve the problem of human happiness. I've had guys be put into solitary confinement. One guy they put him in a room above the boiler, it was like 100 degrees. And he was there for, I think it was 3 months. Yeah, and this was New Jersey. This is a blue state. This is a supposedly, less brutal state. And nothing to read, no TV, no radio, no nothing. Just him sitting there in this bare cell. So yeah, it's completely horrible, completely inhumane. But, so he said, okay, it's hot, I'm taking off my clothes, I guess it's time for a meditation retreat.
Right.
And he closed his eyes and essentially meditated for 3 months. And, in India, there's people who pay a lot of money to go to India and find a nice cave and do what he did. Right? Just turn within. Turn within. So we turn within, and then more and more we come back out and we discover that, as I said before, the kingdom of heaven is within you, and the kingdom of heaven is spread upon the earth. The people that we're walking around in it all the time. It's all because everything's made out of the same beingness. And fear, anxiety, anger, addiction, whatever else you want to add to the list, grief, all of it, jealousy, egotism, all the usual suspects are all, from this perspective, they're all just symptoms. They sound like different conditions, but they're all symptoms of one condition. And that condition is being cut off from clear experience of our true nature, of what we are, that boundless okayness. So the more time you can spend just marinating in that, picking up, the more that other stuff just tends to start to diminish. Not that you're going to become fearless. The title of the book is not fearless, it's fearless. The part that I read this morning, the Dalai Lama's scared of worms, but he laughs about it. I think of our fears and anxieties and rages as they seem like these big scary monsters looming above us. But as we look a little closer, we start to discover, well, they're really like those balloons in the Macy's Day Parade. You got Felix the cat, you've got, whoever. But here you've got, fear, anger, right? What keeps them afloat is hot air, right? And the hot air is our own stories, our own concepts, all our thoughts about that stuff. And it doesn't take much to start getting the hot air out of a balloon. One little pinprick, and it starts to deflate. So what we'll be doing here today is we'll be sharing some methods, and we can think of these methods as a couple different kinds of little pins. Put a hole in the monster here. After a while, it's still going to be there. It may be there for the rest of your life, but instead of this big thing looming over you, after a while, it's just this little, floppy, flaccid thing bouncing around your ankles. Oh, hi, how you doing? Little, bath toy or something. Yes, did you have a question over there?
I can ask, I was reminded of Shirley MacLaine when she was in Peru, and it was freezing night, and she only had this one serpa, like a serpa blanket to wrap around, and she was outside. And so she thought of the sun, and she warmed her body by thinking of the sun. And I wondered if he learned to control his temperature, the man that was in prison with a boiler.
Oh, I don't know about
If he was able to, if he knew that he could do that.
No, he never mentioned that to me.
Oh, okay.
But, and those things do exist. Again, in some of the, in Tibet in the old days, when you were going to become a lama, like be certified as a lama, part of the final exam at least with some schools of Tibetan Buddhism. Part of the final exam was you had to demonstrate the power of what's called tumo, which is the opposite. Tibet has a lot of snow. So tumo is the power to warm your body up. And I've seen photos of monks kind of huddled like this, meditating, and it's like all snow, and around the monk, the snow is all melted
Oh, wow.
from his power of tumo. So this stuff is possible. But we can, that takes a lot of training. That's like devoting your life and being a monk and all that. Most, us here in this room are not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But so we can't necessarily change our body temperature, but we can get to a place. Notice, this doesn't say living without fear, anxiety, living beyond. There is a place that's beyond. And that is what we are on the inside. So we could think of all of these, trials and tribulations of life as like the choppy waves on the surface of the ocean. And we could have some special powers if we work hard to develop them to smooth out the waves. But the more efficient way, and the way that is realistically possible to us non-monks and nuns here, is find a way to duck beneath the waves. Right? Surfers know what I'm talking about here, right? You can't, the wave's bigger than you are, but what you can do is duck beneath it and discover that, oh, I don't have to flatten out the waves. I go a foot or two beneath the waves, and the water's been silent all along. That is, everyone says, I'm looking for peace. I'm looking for peace of mind. Well, that peace, that silence, is right here, right now. All the songs you sing in this place, right, is right here, right now, and it's you. You are tag, you're here. Right here beneath the surface, all along. So all the stuff we get below the surface. That's what it's for. Yeah. So let's sit comfortably. By the way, this would be a great time to double check that your cell phone is off. I was actually doing a meditation workshop yesterday at the Del Rey Yacht Club in Marina Del Rey. And in the middle of the meditation, someone's phone went off, and it was some long, complicated, some movie theme or something.
Oh.
That was fun. So everyone's phone is off.
Yep.
So, okay, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and these questions are not stuff to think about. They're things to check out. So things to, all these questions are to guide some experience here. So my first question is, what color are those music stands over there? Okay, black, okay. Now, in order to do that, to ascertain that, where did you place your attention? Over there, over there, right. Now, by the way, none of the questions that I throw at you today are metaphysical questions. They're not trick questions. Don't worry about being tricked. That's not the point. They're the most simple, dumb, straightforward questions I can come up with. So where did you put your attention to find out what color the music stands up? Over there. Okay. Next question. How does the chair feel under your butt?
So.
Okay. So it feels however it is. You don't have to put it in words. Rather pay attention to the experience. It's better not to put it in words, because that limits it, that puts spin on it. Just notice the actual experience of the chair under your butt. Okay, so where did you put your attention for that? Right there, under your butt. Simple. Okay. Now, what does and again, don't try to put this in words, just go to the experience. What does the front door of your house or your apartment look like? Okay, everyone's experienced that. Where did you put your attention to have that experience? Okay, now some people are pointing to their forehead or to their eyebrow. Is that really where you experience it? Do another one. What does your refrigerator look like? Are you really experiencing that in your forehead or in your eyebrow? How many people are having trouble specifying the place where you experience it? Yeah. Good.
Transcendental.
In your jawbone. Really? Huh. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's forget about that. I'm doing a little experiment here. Let's discard that. Let's do something really straightforward. When you please look to your left. Look to your left. Look to your left, and then you see whatever you see, right? You're aware of whatever shapes and colors are there, and about a nanosecond later, there's the thought that says, oh, that's a clock, or that's a window, or whatever you see. Now look to your right. Now we're aware of different shapes, different colors, different thoughts about the objects. Also, by the way, when you're looking to your right, there's some sensation in your neck. One side of your neck maybe feels a little strained, compressed, the other side feels stretched. Let's look to the left again. Now we're aware of the different situation in our neck, and we're aware of different colors. Now let's look straight ahead. And we're not staring, it's just normal, regular, casual. Now looking, we're seeing different things. We're aware of these colors and shapes, those colors and shapes, these sensations in our neck, those sensations. So these things we're aware of, these sights and sensations we're aware of, can change. Is there anything not changing there? Anything not changing?
Us?
How about the fact that we are aware, right? We're aware of one bunch of stuff. Then we're aware of a different bunch of stuff. That's always changing. What's not changing is we're aware. When you were driving here earlier today, you were aware of the passing traffic, the whole actions of driving the car. But awareness itself, the fact of awareness itself, doesn't change. It's a simple thing. Okay, so let's change one thing only. Let's close our eyes. Don't meditate. No meditation allowed. All we're doing is changing the position of our eyelids. And now, of course, we've lost the awareness of the visual awareness of the external objects, but we're aware of some internal colors, more subtle colors dancing behind the eyelids. We're aware of sounds like this voice coming and going. Some other sound in the background, I guess that's the air circulation. Traffic on the road. So the sounds come and go within our awareness. The colors come and go within our awareness. Thoughts come and go within our awareness. And notice that thoughts are just like sounds, just not quite as loud. Nothing special about thoughts. Nothing we have to do about thoughts or can do about thoughts, just as with sounds. So everything comes and goes like images on a TV screen. In this case, the screen is our awareness. It's the one thing that doesn't come and go. Or we could say that all the thoughts and sounds and sensations that come and go are like different breezes coming and going in the sky, the open space, which is awareness. Now, I'm not giving you anything to do. I'm just pointing out the way things already are. We're just resting in this awareness as it is, since we don't seem to have any control over it. Do we have control? See if you can determine what will be the next sound you hear. Nope. See if you can determine what will be the next thought you think. No, it's all out of our control. So we may as well just kick back. We're not driving. We're in the passenger seat. We're being chauffeured. That's nice. So nothing to do but rest as this sky-like, space-like awareness. Rest as this open screen of awareness, within which all the other experiences come and go on their own. Without any doing from our side. Not trying to concentrate, not trying to focus on anything, not trying to quiet your thoughts or feel some special way. Not trying to bring in anything, any skill that you have or memories or history you have of past meditation. Right now, that's all just thoughts. Just innocently remaining as you are. Just this natural openness, this natural open space of experiencing, which we call awareness. Within which all the experiences come and go. nothing to remember. Nothing to sustain. Nothing to achieve and no way to achieve it. We're already right here, always right here, this awareness, this beingness. Nothing to do but rest in it, give up into it. Open your pores and soak in it like soaking in a hot tub. Anytime if you feel yourself grappling or wrestling with something or resisting or holding on to something, just relax your grip on it. That's all. Don't try to resolve it or get rid of it. Just relax your grip on it and relax back into yourself. Relax your grip on the thing and relax back into yourself, which is this beingness, this simple, pure awareness like open space. Just rest as awareness. That's simple. Notice also that feelings may come and go within this open awareness. Fine. Maybe feelings of happiness or relaxation or anxiety or restlessness, doesn't matter. Just different kinds of weather passing through this open sky. The sky has room for it all. Sky has no preferences. The most gorgeous rainbow doesn't improve the spaciousness of the sky. The darkest rain cloud doesn't harm the spaciousness of the sky. So we don't try to hold on to any feeling or get rid of it. Just remain like open sky, awareness, as you always already are. That's it. sometime soon, I'm going to announce the end of the meditation. And when I do, is there something that you're doing right now that you're going to stop doing? Is there some even subtle little bit of something you're hanging on to keep feeling like you're meditating? And if so, stop doing it now. Just throw it into the fire. Just drop it down. Throw everything into the fire. And just hang out in the space that remains. Gratefully throw everything into the fire. So now keep the eyes closed. But take a couple of minutes to gently start bringing the body back to a more active state. Kind of like waking up in bed in the morning. You may feel like shifting your position and stretching your limbs. Maybe rubbing your hands or your face or scalp a little. Get the blood circulating again. And after a couple of minutes like that, when you feel ready, just gently open the eyes. Take your time. And if you're still opening your eyes, that's fine, take your time. Always take as much time as the body requires for that. Okay, how's everyone doing? Good? Yeah? Yeah. You felt some settling down taking place? Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes it seems like it's like, oh, yeah. And sometimes it's more, yeah. Either way is okay. Yeah, or yeah. And and if you experience, well, yeah, it doesn't mean that, oh, you did a really great job, and then, did a not so great job. Because it's a natural thing. The settling happens by itself. I mean, what did we actually do to make settling take place? Right? Nothing. Set. There it is. The feather falls by itself. We don't do it. Gravity does it. All we do is notice, I just, messed around with your attention a little bit, pointed out, okay, that we're aware, that the stuff we're aware of comes and goes. We are essentially awareness. And just, okay, there it is. Nothing we can do. So just rest as awareness. If you remember 3 words from today, that's it. Rest as awareness. Rest as awareness. And then the rest happens by itself.
Love it. Love it.
Louder?
Love it.
You love it, yeah. Yeah, me too. No, And if you're really hearing this, you understand this is what my life is about. This is what my teaching, this is what I'm so incredibly excited and incredibly grateful that I learned from my teachers. This stupid, simple thing that almost everyone misses, and that everyone gets embroiled in suffering because of that. Because when we settle into this place that this is it, this is the kingdom of heaven. It may have just seemed like, it seemed more like a little blank space, or seemed like a little pleasant nap or something. But it gets clearer and clearer. It's really good to practice every day. It's really good to set it up like brushing your teeth, to have a time every day where you sit. It doesn't have to be real long, 5, 10, 15 minutes, something, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 1 minute is way better than 0 minutes. But really good to do it every day. And then, as you do that, it gets clearer and clearer that this is what's going on. Oh yeah, it is that space, that openness, that's the that has no end to it, that has no edge to it. That's the thing. I was looking for the right thing in all the wrong places. It was right here all along. It was right me all along. And that gets clearer and clearer. And what gets clearer is not only the access to it when you close your eyes in so-called meditation. I say so-called because it's this big fancy word for doing nothing. Basically, that's a big word to get our friends to leave us alone. Go ahead, meditate. I'll get to your question in just a second. So during the time of so-called meditation, that access to that, it gets clearer and clearer. And even more important is that the carryover of that, the recognition of this kingdom of heaven as being not only within us, but spread upon the earth everywhere we go. Stuck in, traffic on the 405, sitting in the hospital room with a dear one who's ill. Sometimes you're the one who's ill. See, to be clearly anchored in that, with growing and growing clarity, now you can start to understand why my prison brother could sit there in that hot cell for 3 months and be hot, be uncomfortable, but be, as you experience it, right? That's on the level of the waves. But we can sink to below the surface, and there's that okayness. Because we never know what's going to be thrown at us. Sooner or later, everything gets thrown at us. So, yeah, we want to be able to do this. So, yes, and you had a...
Actually, there was a couple things. One was, it reminds me of when I was about 5 years old. It reminds me of my childhood, of just simply being. It was like just noticing and just being, awake but
Right.
being. And the second thing was, it seems so ordinary.
Yes. Yes.
It's like,
The most ordinary thing in the world.
and so when I woke up, I felt like, well, okay, how is this going to help me with my life?
Yeah. You'll see. You'll see. I promise you, everything gets easier, simpler, cleaner. in any given moment, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to deal with this difficult person? How am I going to deal with this challenging situation? Or how can I just, I'm walking in the park. How can I just enjoy walking in the park and not be caught up in, what do I have to do when I get back to work? And you see that the more you practice this, the more that becomes self-evident how to do that stuff in that way. And sometimes it sneaks up on you. You may say, because it's so ordinary, because it's so natural. See, and again, this is why people miss it. They're thinking it's got to be something exotic, some spectacular phenomenon. Opening up. Oh, purple flames shooting out of my crown chakra. 24/7 psychedelic orgasm. And I know, when I started with this stuff, that's what I thought it was going to be. But it turns out it's something much more profound than that. Because even if you had a 24/7 psychedelic orgasm, what that would be some really intense, far out, cool, exotic phenomenon, experience. And therefore it would be a total distraction and a total irrelevance. Okay? Because what all the masters, Jesus, the Buddha, all of the Shankara have repeatedly said is, it's not any phenomenon, it's not any phenomenal experience, it's the non-phenomenal experiencer. It's not any of the bright, shiny colors reflected in the mirror. Because if we go for, what we usually think of as some great spiritual experience, opening, and they all say, and this stuff can happen. And it's not that it's not real, but all the masters say, don't get caught up in it, that's a distraction. Right, and we often don't want to hear that because it can be so delicious, so blissful. And I've had those experiences, the opening experience. But then what happens is then you start trying to have it again, and then you get totally messed up. Okay, because the opening. What does opening mean? It's like a chick, pecking its way out of the shell. When you open up the shell, wow, that's great. But now you're out of it. And then you start looking for that, pecking my way out of the shell again, but you're out.
So this is as good as they get.
Yes and no. This is as good as it gets, but the thing is, you see, we're still thinking of it as it, as good as it gets. We're still thinking in terms of phenomena. It's like people think, well, I'm not sure that I am experiencing this awareness, or I'm not sure I'm experiencing this nirvana, or I'm experiencing this kingdom of heaven on earth that they keep talking about. And so we keep looking for the thing at the end of the sentence. That thing that I'm, and the thing to look to is the I. The I is just settling, okay, like right now you go, okay, am I going to experience anything better than this? Okay, who's this I you're talking about? Where is it? Look for it. Find it. Your sternum? You're pointing to your sternum. Now you're pointing to your collarbone? Is that it?
Well,
No, I don't know.
right here.
Right here? Yeah? Oh, your chest.
Over here too.
Yeah? Okay, so it's behind your ears. That's I?
I don't know where it is.
Yes! You don't know where it is. No one knows where it is. Because as soon as we go where is it? See, we're talking about phenomena in space. Time and space. Now, let me get back. Did anyone notice, as you were coming out, as we were opening our eyes, did anyone feel, gee, how long was that? Was that like 5 minutes, or was it 45 minutes? Did anyone feel that? Okay.
How long was it?
Great. I don't know. Okay. Did anyone feel, as you're opening your eyes, oh, right, I'm back in this room with all these people. In this body. It's kind of odd. Anyone have that sort of thing? Right. So, in other words, we lose track of our usual, what seems like a firm sense of time and a firm sense of place. and then we come back and, whoa. And that is because time and space are only on the surface of the ocean of consciousness. Once we go below the waves, this is the transcendental area, which is beyond time and space. Time and space only apply to phenomena. When we sink into the non-phenomenal, into exactly what you said, as a child I experienced just being. That's it. Just being is not in time and space. How much does just being weigh? What color is just being? Where is just being located? Right? Is just being, does it have a velvety texture or does it have a slick texture? None of the above. It has no characteristics. No characteristics. And say all the masters, tat twam asi, that thou art. You are just being. And I love when you describe, oh yeah, childhood. And how do you get to the kingdom of heaven? The instruction is clear. To enter into the kingdom of heaven, be like a little child. Right? So I think we all had glimpses of that in childhood. And some other times, maybe we have glimpses of it when you're running or when you're surfing or when you're doing your pottery or when you're dancing or when, anything. For me, it happens a lot when I'm writing and actually doing this when I'm teaching. So thank you all for helping me get off. Totally using you, right? Whatever you do, that when you're in your groove, you kind of feel. I actually describe it here. Some people call it the zone and encounter it at moments of peak athletic performance. But it can just as well sneak up on you while you're weeding the garden or washing the dishes, running your sales meeting or playing your ukulele. It comes unbidden. Suddenly, you no longer feel stuck in your body. You're watching everything, witnessing it from some unspecified, unconfined space, while your actions roll on with a wonderful, effortless grace, as if no one is doing them, yet they're done impeccably. Somehow time falls away. Colors might seem brighter, sounds sharper, the air sweeter, as if a veil has fallen from your senses. Everything is deliciously weightless, frictionless, silent, even amid commotion and noise. And although we're not apathetic or numb, but vividly awake, there's a deep sense which has no explanation and needs none, that everything is just fine. At these moments, you probably don't stop to ponder your problems. Why would you do that? But if you did, none of them, up to and including death, would appear problematic. It's as if they, like you, are made of pure, open space. Right?
Right.
Right? Ringing a bell?
Yes.
Okay? But then, as quietly as it came, the glimpse ends, usually to be forgotten or dismissed as some passing oddity. But it's not an oddity. That's the promise of the sages. They say it's natural and real to live and breathe from that silence full time. Then, among other fortunate side effects, our fear, anger, anxiety, and addictions start to thin out and eventually evaporate. We realize that this friction-free, problem-free lightness isn't just some pleasant dream or fleeting high. Against all odds, the heaviness turns out to be the dream. The monster under the bed turns out to be the dream. So that's the answer to your question. Is this as good as it gets? That's how it gets. That's how it gets. Okay? And that's,
I
and
can totally,
yeah.
I
And,
understand phenomena now. Thank you.
yeah, say again?
I understand phenomena.
Yeah,
that
right.
That I'm looking for this.
Exactly. And when you give up looking for some phenomenon and just settle into the looker, into awareness, oh, that's where it is. That's what it means, that the kingdom of heaven is within you. Not that, oh, if I look inside, I'm going to find some cool phenomenal experience. It's the looker. It's not anything you see. It's where you've been seeing from all your life. Not anything you can feel or think. It's where you've been feeling from, thinking from all your life. Just right here, this silence. And everyone who gets clarity on this in some words or others says the same thing, which is, how the hell did I miss this? It's right here. Everyone slaps their forehead at some point. Right here all along. How did I miss it? It was right me all along. And it was because we get hypnotized by the phenomena.
Yes.
So when and where did you first have this?
When and where did I first have this experience? I had, as many people do, I had some glimpses of it in childhood. I had this repeated thing that kept happening to me on and off through childhood, which is I kept feeling like I had no face, is the best way I can describe it. I felt like other people had faces, like other people were closed in front, like there was a scene, like they were zipped closed in front in what we call a face, and that mine was unzipped.
Yeah.
And it kept confusing me, it kept puzzling me that other people related to me like I was just one of these other people that had a face. And that would just kind of come and go, but I never thought much about it. It was just so sort of natural. And I had a few things. The most dramatic one. Has anyone here read my first book, which is not there, it's out of print, it's called, but you can find it online, it's called Why the Chicken Crossed the Road and Other Hidden Enlightenment Teachings. Anyone read that one? No. So this one's in that book, it's chapter 1. And I swear to God, true story. Thanks for asking this. This is a fun story. So, I'm 12 years old. I've got 2 brothers. I'm the middle of 3 brothers. And we're going to go to a drive-in movie. Again, we're going to go to this drive-in movie, which dates me right away. And so my mom sends me out to the garage to clear out all our toys and comic books and things from the back seat of the Nash Rambler station wagon, which also dates me. And by the way, the movie we were going to see that night, if you really want to date it, was Parish, starring Troy Donahue.
Oh, my.
So I go out to the car, and my mind is going blah, 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 because my mind always went blah, 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 blah. And what about this? What about that? And if she says this, and I did that, and blah, 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 because that's the way my mind was, just churning and grinding away at all this stuff. And my mind is going like that. I'm picking up the comic books, I'm picking up the toys, and the next thing I pick up is a Mad magazine. Right? And on the cover of the Mad magazine, as always, is a picture of Alfred E. Newman with his big ears and his buck teeth and his silly grin, and his motto, what? Me worry. You all know that? What? Me worry? Right? And all of a sudden, my mind goes, and I realized that this blah, 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 blah that I'd been doing for 12 years, virtually nonstop, was a thing called worry. And that I was doing it. And that therefore, right, it's the Four Noble Truths. I was doing it, therefore I could stop doing it. And I stopped doing it, and my mind went, just like opening to the sky, right? It just settled back into myself and boundlessness. Just cut it with a knife, samadhi, okay? And all through the whole evening, we went to the drive-in, we watched the silly movie, and I was just drifting off to sleep in bed that night. Okay. And of course, I didn't know words like samadhi and nirvana and so forth. And way it's better to never learn any of that junk. You know, putting words to it, because it's that. It's not any of the words. You know, once we learn the words, then we start, you know, what about is samadhi the same as satori and blah, 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 blah. You know, it's that. When you experience, but I want to be clear, it's not a phenomenon. It's not we have to talk about it because our language is made to talk about experiences. But it's settling into the experiencer is the only place where boundlessness is. All experiences have boundaries. So then later on, when you know, and I was always asking the questions, you know, what's the nature of life, and is there a God, and all that. You know, I was one of those kids. And then I started in toward the end of high school reading some books, and I got hold of a copy of the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads and the Tao Te Ching, which were harder to find those books then than it is now. But you know, and I started, oh yeah, this rings a bell. This sounds familiar. Oh, yeah, it was that thing. And oh, look, it doesn't just always come unbidden. It can come unbidden like a thief in the night, as St. Paul says. But look, here's all these sages saying there's this stuff you can do, these meditative methods for dipping into it in a daily basis and cultivating the contact with it so the contact gets stronger and clearer, and eventually you move your furniture in. You live in there all the time. Yes.
Could you just give a couple of descriptive words to tell what you were feeling when you said everyone else had a face and you felt like your face was unzipped? Could you just describe? I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I don't know. No, honestly, I don't know if I can describe it the answer to that question is not going to come in words from me. It's going to come in your cognition of settling into boundlessness in meditation. It's just, here's the thing. No, actually, it's very good that you've asked that. Whenever you read descriptions, like if any of you have read the stories of Sri Ramana Maharshi, great 20th century Indian sage who, at the age of 16, he had a panic attack. He thought he was dying, and it turned out, no, he was, awakening into enlightenment. And then you'll read about the Christian mystics, Teresa of Avila and, San Juan de la Cruz. And each description sounds different. And then again, you try, well, how does this one line up with that one, and how does it? And they sound different because it's like sunlight streaming through a window. There's only the one sunlight, but all the windows are different. Right? Each window is shaped a little different, and there's a little different tint on the glass and so forth. And so when we read about these people having these experiences, you're reading about we tend to focus on the differences, right? And that can be confusing, right? And that's why usually I hesitate to even talk about this stuff. And also because then it sounds like, oh, I'm some special person, and I'm not. This stuff happens to everyone, but some of us maybe just notice it a little more clearly or remember it or something.
I was just trying to understand what you were experiencing when you felt like your face was unzipped.
Yeah. Well, I felt like people were, it's like everyone felt like they were here. They're limited to here, and I felt like I was out here.
Yes. Yeah.
Like
that. Right now.
Like that.
Yes.
I'll tell you one other one that this was for me in childhood that may be helpful because it's applicable to everything we're talking about here. If you were here when I read the business from chapter 1 of the book about how I was a total disaster on the playground, but I was really good in the classroom. Okay.
Last one.
Yeah.
I was the last one to ever pick up. When you read that story, I could relate to it.
Yeah, it was really horrible, wasn't it? Right,
Yeah,
right.
me too.
But now in the classroom, I was a wizard, right?
Yeah, the
Okay. And I remember like in the first grade, second grade, third grade, that the teacher would be asking all this stuff and kids would be trying to figure out, and it was also obvious to me, and I would just be raising my hand, well, blah, 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 blah. And I remember other kids looking at me, whoa, and it was clear to me that they thought I had something special in my head, in my skull that they didn't have, like I had some superpower going on here that they didn't. But it was clear to me, somehow I saw this clearly, that it was just the opposite. It was because my head was empty. And like their heads were gummed up with like sawdust and peanut butter. And so that as the ideas were trying to come through, as they were trying to process it, it was meeting the resistance. It was getting gummed up. And for me, it was just, the teacher would say the thing, you read the thing in the book, there's clarity, and so there's no big deal. Right? Now, that's what it is with this enlightenment thing.
Your mind was open.
It's just openness. It's not some thing, it's not some phenomenon that's there that we need to find or create. It's the lack of. In fact, there's this great quote here from Nisargadatta Maharaj, another great awakened sage of the 20th century. He says, learn to look without imagination, to listen without distortion. That is all. You will experience peace and freedom from fear. Right? Can you hear that? Just look without imagination, listen without, and don't add the sawdust and peanut butter. Don't add expectations. Don't add trying to get advanced placement credit for all the meditation and prayer and study that you've done before. Just be innocent, stupid, like a little child in this moment. Open. Thank you. Open. Just open, and then there it is. There you is.
Are we going to have a break?
Yes.
Could we at least stand up?
Yes. Let's take a break. Stand up, stretch, go to the bathroom, do all that.
Or
good
Wonder
stuff.
Woman's.
Tell them about
We did Wonder Woman's the other day. I'm gonna show you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
So we're presenting this on a love
yeah,
offer
Wonder Woman.
basis.
Yeah, you should
And
do it.
we'll pass the basket or put a basket back there depending on what Dee's plan is after this little break. But make the checks to the setter, CSLCV, if you're writing a check. If you're giving cash, that's fine. Just put the cash in. He'll get the majority of it, but we do this so that the air conditioning, which is way too high, can be paid. And we're so grateful. So, yes.
I have credit card. Can I put it on, just put the word credit card? I didn't bring a check today.
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just
so
the
you-
word credit card?
No.
Well,
she'll
no, I have a credit
all
card.
the numbers and all of the,
But,
she'll have to
but
put,
I can put today and
Yes.
just take it
Yeah.
from my credit card.
yes. Just
Okay.
use the-
And also during the break and again at the end, Yafa, my girlfriend, my way better half is in back, and my books and CDs and things are all available there, and so you can look at those. I can sign people's books.
In the,
And can
in
you
the
take a
seat-
credit card?
in-
Yes, she'll take your credit
Yeah.
card.
In the seat backs, there are chairs that you can write your credit card numbers on if you're, for the love offering, not for the books, but for the love offering.
Make it out to CSLC.
I turned you off.
That's a long time. You know what that's an honor for? Your wedding.
It could be fun.
Did you, huh? Oh, honey, did I see, I've seen it 2 times. Oh, I was in bed, and then I was watching, fell asleep watching. Hi, sweetie. Oh, honey, don't you have a recorder? Oh, well, no wonder, honey. You better have one with talk. Yeah. Oh, what?
I give you a hug.
You can give me a back rub, it would be better. Rub my back a little, God, it hurts harder. Oh, silly.
You are so precious.
But,
It
oh,
must be in the name. I told you
no,
my grandmother.
harder.
She's serious.
Harder. A little harder. Oh, as I said, I was in bed. I started watching about 1 o'clock on, what was that? Saturday morning, I can't remember. Yeah, 1 a.m. I was in
Oh,
bed.
you watched it live. You are.
Well, and then I fall asleep and watch it. So I watched it again, oh, that feels so, I watched it again last night and loved every moment of it. And I know, it's just so, and, you know, it's so wonderful. Oh, thank you, some more. That feels good. Thank you. Go do whatever you wanted to do, honey.
Oh, no, you're fine. I wanted to come say hi to you. My great-great-grandmother's name is Genevieve, and so is my grandmother. And she's not going to be with us very much longer. So
Neither am I.
it's breaking my heart. So.
I'm 95.
Oh, are you really? That is amazing.
I think our stream just ended actually. Oh, there we go, never mind.
Tonight,
right. Beautiful. That's great. I'm even putting, there's a first name. Jan, because this one is this one is Jan. Yeah.
It's the